Wynton Marsalis is credited with almost single-handedly creating a revival of jazz. The prolific and talented trumpeter hasn't stopped for a minute. Since releasing his first record in 1982, he's recorded more than 25 albums. He's won both classical and jazz Grammys in the same year. This fall, he's releasing a new classical album on the 20th century, and later a new jazz album as well. And he is kicking off a national tour of his modern ballet, Griot, New York, with the Garth Fagan Dance Company, and we are very pleased to have him here for what I hope is a regular visit. Welcome back.
Right.
Last time you were here, was it with Peter Martins, you and Peter together? Now tell me about this tour you're doing, this dance tour.
We're going around the United States of America. I think it's 15 to 17 cities.
Yeah.
And we play, it's about a 2-hour show ballet, and it covers a wide range of themes, from blues and calypso and things about disenfranchised people in the city. It deals with city life.
And how did this get started?
Garth contacted me, and he gave me a poem.
Yeah.
The poem is the substance of our ballet. And I didn't understand the poem, so I brought it up to Albert Murray.
Yeah.
And Al read the poem for me, and he separated it into 3 movements. And I wrote the music based on that, the interpretation of Albert. And we have a long history with with Garth Fagan's company and our band.
Right.
Every time we play in Rochester for the last 8 or 9 years, his whole company comes. And we have like we're very compatible.
And what kind of story does it tell?
It tells a story of from the ancient to the future.
Yeah.
Different people come into the city. Like the movement we have is just a description of the city life. Everybody being there, doing what they do, then where everyone comes from Africa, from Europe, from the Caribbean, and then what the people do in the city, which is mainly swing, and try to get their thing together. And Garth has a wonderful way of orchestrating his ensemble. So the first time I saw the dance, it illuminated a lot about our music. Like just something simple like a walking bass line. He'll have the dancers doing something that resembles something that you might see on some Sumerian vases, and they'll go from that to some European court dances too. So we have many different things about contemporary life.
Is there anything you can't do musically?
Oh man.
Oh man, I mean,
there's so many things I can't do.
No, but I mean, you compose, right? I mean, your performance as a player, it is unequaled. I mean, any directions in music that you want to take that you're holding back from? You're not quite ready?
Oh, many. Well, I want to learn to orchestrate for a big band. I want to learn to write for an orchestra. I want to learn more about the histories of different musics, to combine the musics at the root. Like it's kind of like the world music movement that you see, which actually is what jazz is. And this is something that Duke Ellington did a lot of with things like the Far East Suite and other pieces that he wrote to try to combine, to have an intensity of relationships from different historic periods. Picasso really did that a lot in his paintings. Like there's so many relationships going on with the history of that art. So art is a limitless field. You have people like Bach, Beethoven, Ellington, Louis Armstrong, and someone like me is not even I'm not even scratching the surface of what an art has to offer. And in these modern times, there's so many things of interest. In beauty, there's so many struggles, so much pain, so much joy in the world that if you try to come to grips with any percentage of that, it just takes a long time to develop.
Why do you play every day?
Well, sometimes I miss a day.
Yeah,
but I always play in my mind.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking of
music,
how to give a more comprehensive and a statement with some more beauty and some joy and some love in it. There's never a time that's not on my mind. Ever, all day, when I'm going to bed, in the morning, if I'm meeting someone, it's always the focus on the music.
And who influences you the most?
Everybody.
Beyond all the people we talk about, I mean, beyond the old masters and Duke and Louis Armstrong and...
You know, last night I called 2 kids, one in Milwaukee and another one in Pennsylvania. One was 13 and one was 15. And
you called them?
I called them. Yeah, I get messages from them.
Right.
Sometimes it takes me 3 months to call them back. And the 13-year-old kid says, yeah, I was listening to your album, City Movement. What is your conception of composition when you write a long piece like that?
It sounds like something I'd ask.
You know what I'm saying? And the 15-year-old kid says, well, man,
13-year-old man now.
The 15-year-old kid says, man, it's very little people who are interested in playing the real jazz music with the soul and the feeling and who want to swing. And I had a conversation with a 15-year-old kid's mother, and she's trying to send him to school, and they don't have anything. They live in a kind of a rural area, and one of her kids, her older sons, is going to move to another city so that his younger brother can have a chance to play in a music ensemble. So when you have these type of experiences, it makes you realize the greatness and the power of music, and it just makes you grateful for the chance to interact with people. And
you feel a responsibility because you sense your own self in this long connection from all the, you know, that you, because of the gifts you have and because of the family you have and because of the acceptance you have, that you've got some responsibility to give.
Well, it's not really that, because it's not like you feel a responsibility to give. It's just that you feel that you are just a part of something. That is, you have the opportunity to be a part of something that is about what life is.
Well, but is this something, the community of music, or is it something larger than the community of culture?
It's just a community of culture. Like, it's not even that I could talk to this kid or that he would be talking to me, but just and the 15-year-old kid actually asked me about another young kid, a guy named Nicholas Payton, who's a young trumpet player, who's like 20 years old, 19 years old, who really can play. And the 15-year-old kid from Pennsylvania says, well, I want to know how I can play like Nicholas Payton. And I remember Nicholas Payton when he was 14 years old, and he would come to my house. And it's just, in every field we have this type of continuity. It's just that I'm in the field of music, of course. And just what inspires me is the fact that the music has a positive influence on people's lives, and it makes people strive for something more sophisticated and desire to be more of a part of a community. And it doesn't make people want to be destructive or vulgar toward each other, but it inspires learning, and it inspires a certain type of love and feeling.
What do you do to make, I mean, take the inner city schools, for example. Are you doing anything to reach out to those kids and somehow say, not only here's a role model, you know, you, but also here I want to be a teacher. I want you to know about Louis Armstrong. I want you to understand what this hero.
Yeah, I do that.
I want you to know about Charlie Parker, and I want you to know about...
I do that, but I'm always frustrated because I feel like I'm on the battlefield with a BB gun, fighting against people with atomic bombs.
And who are they? Who's the atomic bomb people? The people?
Just all the ignorance on television, the vulgarity, the lack of respect for people, and that's what has the attention of the teenagers. Because you know, when you're 13 or 14, whenever you see like some vulgarity or some ignorance, you kind of gravitate toward that. I know I did.
Right.
And you can't. It's like a great struggle because the powers that be, the cultural forces in the country, are so enamored with this ignorant, noble, savage vision of the United States Negro life, especially, that when you don't accept that vision of yourself or of a group of people or of American life, you will not be empowered enough to make an actual difference. Now, you can affect a kid or two now and then, but for every kid you affect, the television is going to come on, and there's going to be somebody grabbing themselves. And it's not that I'm prudish about that. I grew up in New Orleans. I could care less about you want to pull yourself out in the public, you want to cuss. But it's just the message that it sends to kids is so titillating, and it's such a powerful message of vulgarity and ignorance that a lot of times when I go to schools, I have to teach kids, inner city kids, just about having manners. I don't even get to music. You know, I just say, well, look, just when you see somebody, you say thank you, or you look at somebody and you don't have to scowl at them. You say good morning, because it's not tied into being poor. Because the Afro-American people in the United States of America have a tradition of economic impoverishment, but the tradition of vulgarity and harshness toward each other, and a type of just disrespectful behavior that I see going on in American culture in general was not really a feature of our culture. And that is the thing that I try to influence kids, black and white kids, more to. It's just the black kids need it more because they are being victimized more by media imagery. Like every time you see the image of somebody who's of African American, it's always either some crime or the Negro did this, and the good stories where the people are trying to do something, they're not played up that much. And this thing inspires a type of negative behavior.
Yeah. How much do you blame the music, contemporary music, though, in terms of the lyrics that are coming out of?
You know, it's not the lyrics, it's the music. It's
Really?
just that incessant beat. And the tragedy is like what Albert Murray would always tell me, the same thing that liberate can enslave. That backbeat that comes out of the church music it doesn't represent anything that it represented in the church music. Now you take an African music, or the traditional music, the person who's the custodian of the groove is the one who knows the most about the history of the people, because they recognize that these grooves and these beats have a power over the human psyche, and that is the power of music. But in our society, we associate the meaning of music only with words. Well, the music itself, without words, carries much greater meaning than music with words. The words actually temper, they temper the music.
Right.
So you have boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap. All day this beat goes on television, all night, and this beat is a sound in that beat that I'm uncomfortable with that sound.
What is it?
Because it's a sound first of a lack of engagement, because a groove is a lot of different parts that interact. Mm-hmm. In this beat, the parts don't interact at all. It's just a repetition of the same thing. It's something that represents a certain type of sexuality. Like American music came up with certain rituals of courtship, and the popular music is very hard to separate from romance. Now the secular music, which is the blues, which has very little to do with romance, but which is the tawdry side of human nature, even that has an interactive type of quality. And when in American music, the beats and the grooves of the music itself become non-interactive, so much so that machines can play it, and the actual human involvement in the creation of the music and the dialogue that goes on is reduced to nothing, it actually defeats, it doesn't nourish the public. Then it takes away, it exploits the public. And that is largely what that music is designed for, to get the money and to titillate the young people and stamp on whatever conception of romance they could have developed. And at the end of their broken dreams is just the type of vulgarity, the fake informality that comes about as a result of a lack of romance and style and sophistication. That's why you see so much vulgarity in the youth, disrespect for anything for civilization. Right. And it's tied into this sound.
And so do you think it's too late?
It's never too late. I never think it's too late.
And how do you take the first step or the second step or the third step?
Just what we're doing right now. Just by
talk
saying
about it.
This is not, it won't be popular, what you're saying. Like I've been out here 12 years saying the same thing. Yeah. It'll be attacked. But I always feel that what will happen is that those who are making the most money and becoming popular and celebrated over this will become so arrogant that at some point they will step over a line that people are not going to tolerate any further. And I find that coming rapidly with this increase in murdering and killing and hatred.
Right, but let me understand who you're talking about, too. Are you talking about a blanket sort of condemnation of rap music?
No, I'm not talking about rap. First, rap music I don't separate from the larger progression in American popular music.
Yeah.
Like the whole progression of rock and the whole thing in American consciousness, which tells you that music means that you rebel against basic conceptions.
Right.
Whereas in Afro-American music was always about affirmation of democracy, whereas the conception of rock music was always kick some mic stands down, blow something up, a certain genre of rock, cuss somebody out, be a rebel without a cause. Well, that's what it is. It's fraudulent. So the extension of that philosophy is rap music, but people have erroneously associated that with race. So now they say this is black music, but the Afro-American musical persona is not that. That comes more out of the rock persona. So I don't separate. And I think that it's a blanket thing, that it's something that exists in all of American society, and we are all responsible. I'm responsible for this also. I don't feel like I can say it's the rapper's fault or it's the fault of the record companies, because once a system is in place, everybody participates in it. It's like the slave system. You know, you're going to say somebody who worked on a slave ship in 1765, he had his children, his wife, his family, he had to feed, was wrong for importing slaves, which had been imported for whatever the amount of years. And you can say it, but that wasn't going to keep this man from working his job. He might have felt it was wrong. It's like these grown men who make these videos with these people doing all this ignorance and insanity.
Right.
A lot of them look at it and say, man, you know, but that's their job.
Yeah. So
it's just a system that I feel that we have to attack verbally, publicly. People have to stand up against this type of ignorance.
And are you taking this message to Washington or anywhere?
I take it everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And not just talking, just the way I attempt to carry myself as a man. When I talk to these kids, I try to talk to them with respect, and I try to get them to understand that it's.
And so suppose one of them raises a hand in one of these where you're speaking to somebody and say, hey man, you're talking about Madonna, you're talking about Michael Jackson, and you're talking about a lot of people who are pop icons in America today.
Well, they do that.
They do.
They do. They
say
say worse
our
than
heroes.
that. They
Yeah.
say you're attacking us.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is, so?
So,
I mean,
if
that
the shoe fits.
You know, it's like Freud said, many enemies, much glory. Like just at a certain point, you have to say, no, you know, this is not what I feel should be going on. And that's part of the dialogue that is a part of democracy.
Yeah. Why are you different? Are they parents?
No, I don't really think that I'm that different. I just think that I speak for a voice of people who are out there, but they aren't in the media that much. Yeah. Like I got publicity, like kind of out of a mistake. You know, once you get some
because you were good at what you did.
Yeah, kind of, and then you start to get publicity and you talk. But I see thousands of teachers, parents, kids. Like when I'm walking on the street in New York, sometimes somebody will just say, you know, keep talking, baby, or keep the bebop alive. Or I think of all the people I meet around the country who work with students every day, and they're struggling, and they're not going to be on Charlie Rose show. But
well,
so maybe they will.
But some of them.
You here?
Yeah, I'm here.
But you know they're out here working and struggling with these problems all the time.
Yeah. Let me go back to the relationship here. To what about religion? Are you religious?
Not in the organized sense.
Yeah. Is there competition between you and Bradford, or you just brotherly love?
No, we do. What we're doing is so different.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really.
How would you characterize what you do as being different?
Well, I'm out here all the time playing.
Right.
And trying to swing and play the jazz music.
Right.
He's playing on a television show every night for the commercials.
Yeah.
You know, when he'll play like whatever, if he gets a job, he'll play it.
Yeah.
It's kind of, we always had the same kind of persona. Like I'm out here trying to represent the culture a certain way. He likes to play music and he has a good time.
Where are you trying to take the music, if anywhere?
I'm not trying to take it anywhere. I'm just trying to represent the music and first I'm trying to understand what the music is myself.
You are trying to understand jazz?
Yes, complex. And as I understand it and educate myself, I try to pass the same joys and feelings and things that I get from my discovery of it on to the people who are interested in hearing it.
Yeah. Now, this conversation is not over, but here, I look at this new album, Wynton Marsalis with Judith Lynn Stillman on the 20th Century, in which Ravel and Arthur Honegger and a whole bunch of other people, Leonard Bernstein and Eugene Boza. What's this about?
Well, it's just 20th century trumpet sonatas. It's the type of music that you hear when you go to recitals. And you hear people play. Like if you play in high school, you have to give your senior recital. You play that.
So these are some of the great.
Some of them, like 2 or 3 of them. Some of them are just nice pieces, like the Ravel piece, and the Hindemith is a great piece. But
this is a locker room question, but I'd ask you this if you and I were sitting in the green room here talking about excluding yourself. You know, I mean, who? And let's exclude Louis Armstrong, okay? Who else did you really think ought to belong on the top 5, on the first team of trumpet players?
So many people. You mean just in jazz?
Yeah.
I have to say Roy Eldridge, Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis when he played jazz.
Yeah. I just heard that new album from Montreal with Quincy.
Yeah,
you know what?
That's unfortunate.
Right. What's unfortunate?
Just, just sometimes you make decisions in your life. And
that Miles left jazz or was taking it somewhere else rather than...
No, it's just a certain type of spiritual decay becomes evident when you make decisions,
right.
Whether you're Miles Davis or Wynton Marsalis or whoever you are.
Yeah.
And that's something that's been chronicled in the history of art. It's a famous story in art of somebody who's endowed with a gift and they decide to use the charisma and their gift in another way than what they were endowed with, either because of the fame or because of the money, because of the disappointment in what people do.
Yeah.
It's like the story in the Bible of Moses in the Promised Land.
Yeah.
After he did all of that, just because he didn't do what he was told to do one time, he didn't get to see the Promised Land. It's a story. He says, well, strike the rock or something. He cast the rod down, and God said, no, that's not what you were supposed to do. So after all of that, all of what Moses did, still, this is what he had to deal with. And that's just one story. I'm not saying that to plug a religion. I have to always say that because everybody is so paranoid about religions and the Bible and everything. But it's a story of heroism. The fact that when you're given something, you have that thing on you and your personality gets enriched by that struggle. Yeah. And when you turn your back on it, something different happens.
What have you wanted to do that you haven't been able to do? I mean, is it an orchestra you wanted to play with?
Oh,
Is there
many things? You know, I'm greedy.
Well, give me
man.
one.
Well, I always wanted to have a big band.
Yeah.
And play with them. And I always wanted to be surrounded by
a Wynton Marsalis band.
Yeah, or just any. It doesn't even have to be my band. Just to play with a band full of musicians who are all equally serious.
Yeah.
Like, and who all really want to swing and play jazz and develop the music.
Is anybody doing that anywhere?
Not on the level that I'm talking about. I mean,
in
younger,
terms of that quality of
the
musicianship.
Modern Jazz Quartet and Betty Carter and their musicians out there who still play like that.
Why can't you do it?
Because a lot of what my aspirations are tied into my generation. So I have to wait for guys to come up who want to play. I have to wait for people to learn the history of music a certain way. I have to hope that it's a certain level of seriousness there.
Yeah.
I have to, and it's hard for younger people to want to play jazz because there are very few jobs, and it's very difficult to learn how to play things like the blues in this particular era.
How many members of an orchestra would there be?
16 or 17.
16 or 17. We got you and we got Marcus Roberts, right? Right? That's two.
Oh, no, I know. I mean, I want to put together a band this summer to go out, and play. But there are other things. Like, I would like to be teaching a high school and have an orchestra, like to play the classics of Beethoven and conduct them, and then have a jazz band too.
But next summer you're going to put together a band.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you wait for the summer? Because you got other obligations?
Well, just because I have to have the work a certain way. I have to have the time to write arrangements. I have to get it all organized the way I want it.
All right. And the ballet continues to tour.
Yeah, we're going to tour for this month,
for
October.
Yeah.
October.
And you got this new album out, and there's another album coming out too, isn't it?
Right.
Well, it's a I mentioned that too. You got 2 CDs, In This House on This Morning, which sacred music, jazz inspired by the Afro-American Church.
Right.
I'd rush out to get that. And then you got this one. Is there another one?
Man, there's so many. I had like 8 or 9 in the can. They'll come out.
I know you do.
Eventually.
You're way ahead, aren't you? They're just waiting to release them. Yeah. Wynton Marsalis, my friend. Pleasure to have you here.
Hey, man.
Good to see
Always
you.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Always.
You're carrying the message. Thank you. We'll be right back.